And we are live. Another broadcast in the Roofing on the Rise studios. We are sponsored by Roofing Supply Incorporated here in the Houston marketplace. Actually, a lot of other marketplaces now. You hit me up, might be able to ship to you. Give me a call. Telephone number 210-919-8987. Again, 210-919-8987. We are also sponsored by West Group Public Adjusters, where you can get a hand-tailored claims experience. Guys, reach out to me, and I'll get you in contact with West Group. Telephone number is 210-919-8987. Today and every day, we have an amazing guest. Today, we have Doug Mitchell. Doug, bro, what is going on?
Man, I'm having a great Saturday morning already. Got to talk to you a little bit before the podcast, and just want to say it's an honor to be on here, and I'm excited to get into it.
Man, it's an honor to have you. I really do appreciate, taking the time. We've been trying to do this for a couple months, I want to say. First, we had you scheduled, and then life changed. Had to go to Saturdays. Rolled with the punches, and we've just been trying to do it between family and work, and everything's just been crazy. You're a real busy guy. So am I. It's been hard, but I'm excited. Today is Saturday. We got Tesla here today, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty cool. At Roofing Supply Incorporated, Tesla has taken the time to come and shoot some training. They got videographers out here. So in between podcasts, I'm going to be able to go outside, check out Tesla. I actually have friends here, so I'm pretty excited to today. Like, today is just exciting. It's pretty cool. So
all good things.
Doug, man, do me a favor. Give my viewers some background, some history. Who are you, and what is it that you do?
Yeah, well, I'm your typical entrepreneur. I got fired from the first 20 jobs I had from like 18 to 23. So I realized real quick I didn't respond well to authority. I wasn't very good at following the rules. I was always trying to tell my boss what to do. And at 23, I got an opportunity to manage a door-to-door sales company, and the main client was AT&T. And so I was able to scale that company from, we started with one manager in Houston and myself in Corpus Christi. And I was able to scale that company from just us two to over the next 3 years, 110 reps and 4.8 million in commissions that AT&T was paying us out annually.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And here more recently, so I've had my sales company for 15 years, and I started getting into groups like you and I are in, and I realized, hey, there's a demand for somebody that knows how to build and scale sales teams. And so I winded down my solar business, I winded down my AT&T business, and I went into full-time consulting.
Dang. Wait, solar?
Yeah, I did solar for about 2 years.
How did that happen? How did that work out?
I mean, once you know how to build and scale sales teams and door to door, the fulfillment part doesn't really matter. As the biggest roofing companies are just marketing and sales companies, right? And so once we saw the margins in solar as well as the demand for it, we got into it a couple years ago, and we did pretty well in it. It just wasn't really the business for me. My issue with solar, and I'll just kick it off with this, is the margins, right? So the amount of money that the salespeople are getting paid, and I talk about this all the time. When you look at, okay, I've offset the customer's cost, and then they stop right there instead of actually saving the customer's money because they want their commission to be higher. There's too much control that the salesperson has in order to increase or decrease their commission. And so that's kind of my issue with the industry. And so me and my VP at the time basically broke up because we were like, hey, you want high commissions? I want to actually install the systems and create a quality customer experience all the way through. We're not on the same page. So we decided to part ways over the commissions and solar right now.
Wow. That's pretty strong. It tells me a little bit about you, though. You have to have some integrity to do something like that. Offset costs, tax liability. Those are things that I have issues with in the solar industry, as of right now. And I mean, really, like, respond, like, people that don't respond. So it's like, the two-step process, right? Like, as soon as everything's done and they're 2 steps off your property, you're never gonna hear from them.
Mhm.
And that's the problem because there are constant things that need attention. And, good sales organizations don't turn and burn. Um, they nurture that client and they see how they can help that client help solve those problems for that client. And for me, I feel, like a wheelhouse is so important. Having other people that you refer out,
Mhm.
it's extremely crucial. And so, this solar referral, man, it's been a big deal. It's been a kind of a big weight on my shoulders here recently. A lot
Mhm.
of people look, at especially when you run these groups on Facebook, they're looking for that
Yep.
referral. They're looking
Yep.
for that, like, what who do I do business with? And it's a huge weight. Um, I'm testing one out right now. I like how they're doing things. It's
Mhm.
completely different than any other solar organization. Um, and they're funneling money into the roofing company by means of leads. And so it's a completely different way than, "Hey, give me your customer list so I can work on the acquisitions."
Right.
It's
Right.
completely set up differently. It's fulfilled differently. It's not being fulfilled by these major corps. It's fulfilled by local organizations buying local products. Of course, the panels are not all local, but as
Right.
local as we can get from local distributors. Um, it's different. So once I fully get through the whole cycle a few times,
Mhm.
I'll announce that. I'll hit you up. I'll let you know who they are too, just in case you have
Yeah,
anybody that,
absolutely.
needs a referral partner in the future. Um, and that just, that rising tide, rises all ships,
Mhm.
rising tide is a big thing for me, in my life. I don't know about you. I really think it's important that, iron sharpens iron. Like, you constantly help each other grow. Like,
Mhm.
it's just it's just a part of, man, this is a Saturday, I love it. It's fucking let's go. Let's go. Uh, Give me a little bit of background that you got, like, in the growing of the sales. I know you said the 2 pretty big corporations that you've already been dealing with. AT&T was
Mhm.
really, really massive.
Yeah.
So what other background do you have with building these sales teams? I know you say you've been doing it for a minute.
Yeah, so I have a diverse group of clients now, and it's all over the map. I've consulted for a high-end security company that does like security for tech CEOs and celebrities and like Lockheed Martin government buildings and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I've built out their business development program. You know, I have other clients that do car wraps. So I know
yeah,
that if you're in the roofing game, that you can actually get your car wrap pretty much paid for by your distributor, you know?
yeah,
And so these little things that come into it, I've had clients that do digital marketing. I have clients
yeah,
that obviously do door-to-door sales. Some of my
yeah,
strongest clients that have gone from like 1 million to 5 million since they've been working with me are in door-to-door. So that's probably going to be my strong suit there, which obviously goes hand in hand with roofing.
yeah.
I built out recruiting programs for my roofing clients, so it's
Really?
pretty, it's yeah, absolutely.
Man, I got a
And then
referral for you right now.
yeah,
Right
that's a
now.
big deal. It's a big deal.
Dude,
And
recruiting's huge.
absolutely. And so, one of the things that we're doing in the recruiting space with building great sales teams is we're setting up go high level snapshots for recruiting only.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
so all these things do is, you got hires coming in on, or you got people coming in on Indeed, you got people coming in on Instagram, Facebook, referrals, whatever the case is. We built it out so that you could monitor and manage all those sources, see your
Mm,
conversion rates across the board, as well as one of my favorite things to do is the first five sale data, right? when I hire somebody, they come into the company and they make their first sale, that's a little ding right there. Okay, they're at one sale, and the
Right.
averages from 1 to 5 sales obviously decrease over time. You're looking at about, if you hire 5 people, 20% of them are going to make it to their fifth sale. So
Yeah.
what you're looking at, what you want to look for is the correlation between the sources and that 20% that make it to the fifth sale. And all of a sudden you
Mm.
see where your highest quality recruits are coming from, and then you can double down on those. What most people do is they look at their cost per hire, right?
Yeah.
If my cost per hire is super low on Indeed, and I can get more hires from Indeed, I'm going to keep going to Indeed, you know, but the quality of Indeed
Quality.
isn't there, right? So
Exactly.
if my cost per hire is 3 or 4 or 5 times on Facebook, it's okay because all it's doing is offsetting that person that I hire that gets from 1 to 5 sales, that 20%. Now I can spend 5 times as much on one hire
Exactly.
because I know the quality is going to come through. So I'm a big
Exactly.
data guy. I'm a big systems guy. That's how I got to where I got to, because I was able to look at door to door sales, and I had a few inputs from different, because the guys that I had originally came in from other door to door sales companies. So they're like, hey, this is how this company does scripts. This is how this company does recruiting. This is how this company does training. I was able to kind of bring it all together and create kind of a hybrid system between all those. And I only knocked doors for 90 days. In 15 years, I've only knocked doors for 90 days
Really.
because I was able to immediately, all right, this is how I do it, build the model, document the model, and then immediately start training other people how to do it, and then scale. And that's why I was able to scale so fast in 3 years and have 110 salespeople after that, because we built a scalable system. And that's all a sales program is. It's a scalable system around sales. We do it all the time for marketing. We do it all the time for operations. You probably got your SOPs dialed in fulfillment and operations, but so many companies, they hire a salesperson. They say, okay, I've hired the salesperson, and everything they do after is on them. Every all this training and their scope of work and what they're supposed to be doing every day. They're the salesperson. They should know all that. And let me just, can you imagine hiring a new roofing installer and being like, all right, you got it. You're a roofing installer. Let me just give you that title. And you automatically know what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. And
Just like
and I,
you pick up
I
these
hope,
guys randomly and just like give them
yeah.
some guns and some nails and like, have a good day.
Yeah, I hope you have enough experience to do it the right way that's going to result in the quality that I need, you know? And
Mm.
so many roofing companies do this every day. They do. They hire the roofer with it, or the salesperson with experience, and they say, "Hey, go do your thing, and I'll pay you this commission," and that's the deal. And now I'm good, and they wonder why the quality they're getting back isn't holding up to their standard, you know? So
Sheesh.
so sales programs are incredibly important, that you're intentional with them, right? And so the way you build those out is what I call CODOC. CODOC, CODOC,
Yeah.
right? It's compensation. Do I have a commission statement that I can put on paper and show someone? Then on the back of that commission statement, do I have an opportunity structure? Am I showing them more than just being a salesman at my company? Can they move up into assistant manager, into sales manager? Can they open up their own location, and start running sales out of there? Not fulfillment, just sales, right?
Yeah.
And do they have an actual opportunity in the space that doesn't have to do with them knocking doors or doing sales calls the rest of their life? Can they start
Mm.
lifting other people up, and can you show them how they get there, actual steps, right? The third D is for development, right? Do I have a script in place? Do I have training in place? Do I have recordings of successful pitches that they can listen to in their own time and study? Do I have a development program that teaches my people, all right, this is how you make a sale, this is how you process it, this is how you manage it and follow up on it, but also, this is how leaders lead. This is how you start investing. This is how you open up
Mm.
your own LLC. This is my tax expert, and he's going to talk to you for an hour about, how to structure your finances so that you pay minimum taxes, and so teaching them life as well on top of that. And then when this other roofing company comes in and say, hey, we're paying 5% more, we're paying 1% more, whatever the case is, they're not going to care, because you've been investing in them this whole time. You've been treating them like someone that you want to stick around and to be successful, not just in business, but in life. And if they're successful in business and life, you've got a superstar on your hands, right? And
Yeah.
so then there's the operations piece. Like if I hire 5 salespeople tomorrow and I put them through my training over 30 days and they just start going out and crushing it, can I even handle the business? Can I even keep up with it? Is my operations dialed in well enough so that I'm ready for that? And then in terms of, their payroll, in terms of the recruiting, am I completely scalable? Can I call my shot and say, "Hey, we're going to spend 5 grand on recruiting this month. That's going to produce 10 new hires. You know, 30 or 3 of them are going to stick around and that's going to produce over the next 90 days, half a million in roofs?" And so do I have that dialed in and understand how that works, right? And then the last piece, if I get the first 4 letters right of Kodak, the last one is culture. That one is going to
Mm,
happen organically because I have the first 4 on point. But with so many roofing companies, the only one of those that they have really dialed in is the culture. It's the most important one, don't get me wrong, but without
yeah.
the other 4, you're not gonna be able to scale. You're just gonna have a really fucking good 5-man roofing company, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's never
Yeah.
really gonna grow from there. Maybe 10, maybe you can get up to 10, but beyond that, your systems are gonna start falling apart because you haven't intentionally put a sales program in place yet.
Mm. That's fire shit. If you're watching this podcast right now and you're like, "Huh, that's why I fucked up already." Um, these are systems and processes. Like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about this issue right here, and it prevails in a lot of businesses. It's not just roofing; it's all over the place where they just don't have all of this in place. So when they do take on new business, when they do take on new recruits, plug it in there, right? Whatever you're doing, why it fails each time or why they're not successful at it, right? And bro, why didn't I meet you like fucking 10 years ago? Like good God, man. We could have made millions
You know
together.
why? Because I wasn't meeting anybody 10 years ago. I was isolated. I was, every room I was in, I was the smartest guy. I was making the most money every room that I was in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just life. I thought that was
Yeah.
just like how it was going to be for me. Didn't really have any strong friends because they didn't understand when I started
Yeah.
talking about, spending 10 grand a month on recruiting, or when I started talking about, hey, my admin of 3 years that I thought was this amazing person is suing me for discrimination because she knows I have the money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna pay a settlement, whatever the case is.
Right.
I had nobody to relate to. And then I found Apex. And then I found masterminds. And I found guys like you that I can have a 10-minute, deeper 10-minute conversation, the 10 minutes before a podcast, than I can have with and I call everybody else that, as an employee, civilians. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you got your entrepreneurs, you got your high level people that can have those conversations too. But my
Right.
point is, in the general marketplace, you go out, you make friends or whatever. You can't really have those conversations without them feeling insecure right away, you
Yeah.
know? And so I wasn't putting myself out there. And then I finally found freaking Stewman wrote me in, you know what I mean? And I finally found Apex and I was like, damn, these are my people. I'm good to
That's
go now.
awesome.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't even gotten into that yet. Like, I need to get into Apex. I know a lot of people, like, I know a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, when I was ready to, like, jump into that, which
Hmm.
has been in the last year really, because before I, like, networked and things like that, but
Yeah.
I wasn't there yet, right? Like, I wasn't ready to have that, like, just like you said, I just wasn't ready to have people misunderstood, etcetera.
Hmm.
Not to that extent though. And so, uh, and the reason why I say that is because I just feel like, bro, you're like fucking super smart. Like, I really do. I think that you are absolutely super fucking smart. Um, so I'm not trying to compare myself to you in that
Well, if we
respect.
if we if we start talking about roofing installations, I'm gonna sound real dumb real fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Everyone specializes in their own field, but like
Yeah.
when I got ready, I started this podcast, and this podcast was really the best thing that I've done in a very long time. Um, Probably in the last 10 years, besides marrying my wife. Ah, you almost got me. You almost got me, honey. I know you're watching. Big shout out to my wife. She watches everything, make sure the audio is good. Bro, I've had, like when I first started, yeah, I hit record without the audio, I had to, like yeah,
They're
so
like, "I love this miming show. It's awesome."
yeah, 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 Marilyn, like, I traveled to a friend's, whiskey room cigar bar, and, like, he just built it out inside his house in, like, the first 20 minutes, no audio. But, anyway, I I put my head down, and I just got into this podcast, and now I'm starting to barely, like, pick my head up, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on out there? I
Yeah.
went to one conference, like, I went to one conference recently, and I'm just like, I'm dead, bro. I'm so exhausted. That was like 6 weeks ago. I'm still freaking exhausted. Um, I need to jump into it. I need to jump into the Apex. I just see too many high functioning, high performers that are involved in that. It just seems like the right thing to do. So,
Well, and I'll give you the skinny on masterminds. I talk about Apex a lot because that was my first one. I'm
yeah.
in 4 right now,
Okay.
and I went all in on Apex. I spent 6 figures on development, the trips, surrounding myself with these people, and I learned so freaking much. But there's
Yeah.
only so much you're gonna learn without execution. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's only so much benefit you can get from it without the execution, right? And so I started diversifying myself a little bit. And one of the things I realized, especially about masterminds, right? Because they are it's a $1 billion business across the US, masterminds.
Right.
And so one of the things I realized is you're not going to find the perfect one. So stop trying to do that, and it gets very culty and you get into it and you're like, we are Apex, and then there's
Yeah.
I'm in a few others, and it's like, oh no, we're different than that, It's like, okay, it's a bunch of guys and girls, high level entrepreneurs getting together, and then some that aren't, So there's a lot of
Yeah.
that like celebrity status within the groups,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're showing up, you're giving value. You're not showing up for business only. You know what I'm saying? You're showing up
Yeah.
for, all right, how can I connect you to your best referral partner?
Yeah.
And you're showing up to create fans that are referral partners, that put you on the map or that introduce you to podcasts like this. If you're showing up like that, you're going to be in good shape, you know, and you don't need the leaders of these groups. You don't need the group itself. You don't need it to be perfect. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You just need to know that, hey, I'm going to show up, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to execute. And that's one of the things I will say. Apex is on the forefront of all the cutting edge stuff that's going on in masterminds. Like I
Yeah.
commend you because you started this podcast. Probably maybe you saw some other people doing it, right? But I started this podcast because it's part of a playbook that Apex
Ah,
gives you to create
okay.
influence. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm running a
Mine was
play.
Bill Walsh. Big
Okay.
shout out to Bill Walsh, Power Team International.
Mhm.
So, I sat down, to lunch with him, and podcast was one of those things, and I
Yeah.
just, like, went down the list, and I'm like, "What what could I like what's slightly out of reach yet obtainable?"
Mhm.
Right? That's a goal. And so, for those of you that don't know, and so I'm like, podcast, Anchor, right? Like, so I just got
Yeah.
on Anchor. I got pulled out Chat GPT. I messed around with some names, talked to my wife, talked to a couple friends. I was like, roofing on the rise. All right, bet. Boom.
Yeah.
Did it. And I was gonna have like my little headphone jack with like, the iPhone, just like I'm just gonna like plug it in. Just gonna like
Yeah.
talk on the phone in my closet. Big shout out to Jeff Schmeckel here at Roofing Supply Incorporated. He was my sales rep, um, and we were negotiating our terms because I was roofing contractor,
Yeah.
and he said, "Hey man, why don't you go talk to my partner?" And really, that was big. Like talking to Darren Bro. Big shout out to Darren. Thank you so much for the opportunity here. Uh, he had this podcast equipment, man, that had been sitting for like 2 years. Like, what? It's like, dude, if I built you out a studio, would you come? You know, yeah, of course. And here we are. I just it, that sit down, and it maybe it's close to what Apex kind of gives out, because it was almost, it was like boom, boom, boom. I may even still have. I'm sure I still have them on in my phone because I'm
The
trumping through a
list, the
couple of
list.
them. Yeah, the list. And so like I just grabbed them, like, and I'm just, I mean, I was in this depressive, uh, passive aggressive state. Like I was just like, fuck the world. I woke up angry at everyone. I mean, it did not matter. Like, you could have texted me this morning on Facebook and I would have freaked the fuck out. Not on you, but I'd have just like lost it. Like, uh, it took too long for this guy to message me back, or he messaged me back and he said okay, but it was a, it was all in caps, man. He's mad at me. Like, I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me. Like, I just had this weird fucking black cloud, I call it, in the sales
Mhm.
industry, right? I had this
Yeah.
black
Yeah.
cloud, and man, I thank God for organizations like Power Team, like Apex, these mastermind groups, because I was able to wake the fuck up, you know, um, and it had a lot to do with my routine. It had a lot to do with like working out, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Hell yeah.
do you work out?
Yeah, absolutely. I have
Fucking every
to
day.
keep myself sane. You know,
That's what I'm
it's
saying, bro. Like,
yeah, it's crazy because I would say the last few months, I've been slipping on my routine big time, you know?
really?
And it's because I've been basically rebuilding this business from scratch. You know, like
Yeah,
I always had this passive, I had delegated myself out of my business, you know, so I always had this passive, you know, anywhere from $2 to $3 million company. Like
yeah,
it was just 15, 20 hours a week. I was fine. You know what I mean? I was chilling.
yeah,
I was complacent, you know.
yeah,
And then at the end of last year, I decided to shut it all down and go full time into consulting. And this is a whole nother game, you know, because it's not
yeah,
just sending 5 guys out into a neighborhood. It's
yeah,
like you've gotta be those 5 guys and create the
right,
business for yourself again, you know?
yeah,
So it's like I'm knocking doors all over again the first 90 days. It's like I'm showing up and doing opportunity meetings and training my guy. It's all that again. You
yeah,
know, and at first it lit a fire under me, and I did like, you know, in January, I think I did 100K in consulting fees right away. I was like, "Oh, this is it.
it's
Again,
fire.
easy street. I did it again," you know? Like I'm good to
Yeah,
go because the
yeah,
margins are just so much higher, you know?
right,
So when you look at consulting, you know, you only need to do like 1 million to make what you know, made in 5 million in a traditional business, you know?
right.
And so I was like, I made it. I got $1 million company again, just like that month, you know, 1 month in, and then all of a sudden, like I
Right.
started
Like,
having to
background
fulfill.
music, all I do is
Yeah,
win, 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 no
yeah.
matter what.
And then I started having to do fulfillment in the work, and then I stopped selling. I stopped marketing as
Yeah,
much and putting myself out there as much. So like my sales went to 0 in February, and then I was like, oh crap, hey, this is not, I can't do that. I gotta start selling more, you know. So
yeah,
March it went up a little bit in it. So it's been figuring out, you know, and I do have a small team, you know, that handles
yeah,
social media. I have my producer that handles the podcast and all my marketing. And so I do have a team that's putting me out there and doing very well at that. But at the same time, getting on podcasts like this, getting on calls, you know what I'm saying, with people and inspiring that business is a whole different deal than just a post on Facebook. So right away
yeah,
I started struggling with that up and down of entrepreneurship. And then, yeah, I had the black cloud over me, you know,
yeah,
just like you're talking about. That's why I laughed because I was like, you laugh not to make fun of. You laugh because you feel it. You
yeah,
know, you're like, I've been there. I know
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about, and it is like we were just talking about. You can actually find someone that's been through that before. You know exactly what they're talking about.
yeah,
And so, yeah, for a couple of months there was literally roll out of bed, roll into my desk, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
catching up on clients, getting posts out there, doing podcasts or whatever the case is. I kept making that excuse every day. Oh, I've got
mhm,
work to do. So if I get up at 5, I'm going straight into work. If I get up at 6, I'm going straight into work, you know?
uh,
And instead of hitting the gym. And it turns out last 2 weeks, you know, I've hit the gym what do
let's
you call it?
go.
Like 5 out of 7 days, and I've been
Yeah,
having great fucking days,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
it's like, how many more times do you have to fuck this up to remember, like, hey, this is the right way to do this, you know?
Yes. Yes. I started working out again like 2 years ago, and then I stopped. And so yesterday, I was like, we do this Facebook thing, of course. So,
Mhm.
I'm like looking through Facebook and I'm like, "Oh shit. I okay, yeah, I was in the gym. I was like getting back in shape and I'm on like the bike, right?"
Mhm.
And at that point, I was in the gym, but I wasn't, like, pushing myself, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So and I didn't talk to anyone, no one. It's like, "Alright, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, I'm gonna keep my head down, I'm just gonna do my thing," just
Put
like
my hoodie on.
I'm like yeah, like, I'm asking questions to people that are doing more than me because I'm like, "How" I wanna know how you do that. I was in
Mhm.
the gym yesterday and this guy, I see him out all the time, he's running. And so he'll run for a certain period and then he'll walk. And I mean, he walks like at an incline like this. He's like holding
Yeah.
on, like walking. And I listen to Goggins every morning. So I'm like listening to Goggins and I'm looking at him and I'm just like, okay, you're a freak of nature. I want to know how I can be a freak of nature too. Like I want to see how the fuck I
Mhm.
can do this. Because I've never like, to this day, I've never been in better shape. I've never looked as good. I've never felt as good. I've never operated as high as I am now. And so I know that if I take it a step further, where is that gonna take me? Right? Like, if I push myself just a little harder. And so that's what he told me. It was like, "Okay, look, man, I freak like, my mind, like, everybody's mind, we all, like, is my mind's not different than yours." Right? Like,
Right.
my mind psychs myself out, so I gotta cover up the time, and so instead of I don't look at that time anymore. That's why I have my jacket. It's like that's why I wear a hoodie. I wear a hoodie so I can pull it over the top of that treadmill and cover up all the time. I don't wanna know how long I've been running. I don't wanna know that. I just know I put the miles, and I know where the miles are at. I kinda know the time from there, but I'm not trying to let it get to me anymore.
Mhm.
Because if I sit there and I look at that time, then my body and my mind's gonna psych my body out.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna be able to breathe, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be all over the place. But
That's real.
if you trick your mind, how far can you go? So, like, he
100%.
he goes, "How far?" I seen that you did everything by time. I say, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Okay, so how much on each?" And 6 minutes and 3 minutes and then
Mhm.
6 minutes one, right? And he's like, "Okay, so start with, 3 minutes a run, cover that shit up and walk, and then run, and then walk, and tell me how you feel after that." And I'm like, "All right, bet." So that's the next thing for me, right? Like this evening, I'm gonna go and do a run. I haven't like Monday through Fridays, I work out. Saturdays, I do walk or a run. Um, I'm excited to do that. Like I'm excited to hear from other people because I don't have it figured out, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I gotta psych myself out too. I'm the same way,
really?
and the way I've done it
Like
recently is
3
I started.
minutes? Okay, all right. Now I can go roll out.
Yeah. Well, the way I've done it recently is I started playing rugby again. So I played rugby for 5 years, and it was always an issue in the past because I didn't, I talked about working 15, 20 hours a week. So I dived fully into rugby. I was president of the club, going to every practice, all the things, right?
Yeah.
And so it was originally responsible for my first major weight loss from 285 to like 240, you know. And
Oh
then
shit.
you know, separation and divorce was responsible for the other 20. So I got all the way down to like 215,
Okay.
you know.
That's a
That's how
lot.
that works.
Yeah. And the
We
plastic
actually,
in.
yeah, and we reconciled 3 years later. So she knows like I love rugby, and she
Yeah.
pushed me. She pushed me to get back out there. And she knows like if I go out there and I see all these 25-year-olds
They
running
going back
around.
together?
What's that? Yeah, we got back together. Yeah.
Oh!
Remarried.
Oh, man,
All
that
the
is a
things.
love story.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's a good one. It's a good one.
congratulations,
I've
though.
I've obviously I've been on other podcasts besides, business centric or sales centric, and I tell that story. So but anyways, so got me back out there, and it is. I get out there with these, like, 25-year-olds darting around the field and stuff, and I get pissed off that I'm not darting around with them, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm like, it
yeah,
motivates me to get my ass back in the gym, to get out to practice, you know what I'm saying? To at least do something every day, go for a walk, doesn't matter what it is, I'm moving my
yeah,
body every day so that when I get back out to that field, I'm showing improvement every single time, you know? Now the beautiful
yeah.
thing is I got experience. I've been playing for 7 years now, you know? And
Nice.
so I can do a lot of things to level the playing field of their athleticism, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We you know, they call it, old boy speed in rugby because you know how to get to the try zone or the fastest point the easiest way. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Instead of
yeah.
doing it like the young guys,
Like
which are running all over the field all crazy, you know? So,
yeah,
yeah, I have to psych myself out too, you know? I'm the same exact way. We can't all be
it's a weird
Goggins.
thing. Nah, yeah, I mean yeah, I mean, he's just a different breed, but it's motivational for me to see Goggins because, you know, I was the fat kid and I still consider myself fat even though like I'm like if I took my shirt off, like I'm really like Andy Elliott, he's like, if you can't take your
Oh,
shirt
yeah.
off and feel comfortable, like I feel comfortable in my skin. I've never felt like that, like ever in
Mhm.
my life. I got lines popping up where I never had lines. I'm like really, really excited. That's why I want to push myself because I know, man, I say if I cut out the sugar and some other shit,
Mhm.
cigars. Um,
Whiskey.
yeah, I don't drink, so I'm good
Oh,
there,
okay.
uh but I'm bad with bread, bro. Like that's my whiskey. Like
Yeah.
whiskey bread is my whiskey. So if I cut out bread and sugars and I took it up like 4 notches in the gym, I'd have a six pack in probably 3
Mhm.
weeks. But I like my sugar and all this shit, you know, I feel
Yeah.
comfortable in my skin. And so I'm trying to take it up to the next level. Like I'm surrounding myself with those people, you
Yeah.
know, that's real cool. You know, successful people is it's almost like the chicken and egg thing. Like, uh, at some point, like they are working out, like they have a awesome routine. So, uh, how do you? And I know you said you've been having some issue, and now in the last
Mhm.
2 weeks, how have you balanced that daily routine? So, what are you doing different than you were, 4 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Are you putting your phone down in the morning? Are you not grabbing your phone? Whoops, stress
Mhm.
cube. Watch out. Are you not
It was a
messing with that?
it's just a mindset shift because
Mm,
I saw how far down the rabbit hole I went and how it affected my relationship with my wife, my relationship with
mm,
my kids, you know, and then just I was tired of feeling like crap. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And so there has to be a shift that happens. And if you got a
yeah,
list in your head of priorities, you know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about
yeah,
worldly priorities here, not, faith and love and, all that type of stuff. I'm not talking woo woo. I'm talking very simple. Like I
yeah,
get up in the morning, this is my first priority, you know? And if that first priority is not yourself, you're gonna have a hard time. Motivation is gonna come very hard. You're always gonna put yourself last. It's what we do innately as fathers, as husbands, as business owners. You know,
yeah,
if you've been around for a while, you probably have put yourself last consistently.
yeah,
And the issue with that is the work comes first, and then the family comes, and then the business comes, you know what I'm saying? And then you're last, you know? And so it was just a mindset shift I have to have, and I've gone through it several times, unfortunately, because we're not perfect, we're human and we fall out of this shift. But it's like, yes, I can get on the computer and I can make some stuff happen, bring some leads in and maybe make some sales in those early morning hours, not even make sales, but set myself up to make sales later in the day,
yeah,
or I can go and take care of myself, you know what I'm saying, and feel
yeah,
good when I do start working because my endorphins are through the roof. I've accomplished something for the day,
yeah,
and I'm running on dopamine, when I start work at 8:30, you know what I'm saying? I'm
yeah,
hitting the ground running and you can hear it in my voice, you can hear it on the podcast. You can read it in my writing,
yes,
I'm high, right?
yes,
And so that's what that workout does for you in the morning, and it is, you have to put yourself first. You have to get rid of all that guilt. not spending that time with your kids, not spending that time on the business, not spending that time with your wife, and be okay with that. Now, if you got a wife like mine, and she goes and works out with you, then you're golden. You know what I'm saying? Because you're knocking out two birds
Damn,
with one
bro.
stone. Yeah. So
Damn.
that's where it's at right there. But
And we got a
anyways,
4-year-old right now, and it's like,
yeah,
it's hard, it's hard for her to do that.
yeah,
I can't wait because when he goes to school, it's on. It's
yeah,
on.
100%. So, yeah, we're in that stage. My kids are 9, 11, and 13. So we're in that
Oh,
stage where they can
9-year-old
get
boy
up
or girl?
themselves, brush. I got the youngers are two boys, and then my oldest is a girl. And so that
Okay.
they can do everything themselves. They can brush their teeth, they can make their own breakfast, they can get themselves on the school bus. So,
Yeah.
like, our mornings are open for the first time in 13 years of raising kids, It is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, and now the 13-year-old can watch the other 2, we can go on date nights. All that stuff is coming, brother, and it's awesome. I can
Can't
tell you that
wait.
right now.
My
It's a whole 'nother
9-year-old
stage.
freaked out on some kid on the bus this last week.
Mhm,
Uh, I had no clue what happened. I just got an angry call from the principal, my wife, and then the thought like, "Okay, so this is our family name more than just everything else as well." So I was a
mhm,
little irritated because I was looking all on the outside and not on the inside quite yet,
yeah,
and I'd asked him what happened, but he knew, like, it was just not the right time to communicate what happened, and I give it to him, like, he didn't tell me until the next day because, I just I know what he knew, like, he knew everybody's spirits were in a different spot. We were just feeling some type of way because he got kicked off the bus.
yeah,
Then find out that little shit was, hitting on my son in school, and my
mhm,
son handled business.
yeah,
So get your kids, like, or my kid's gonna wipe the floor with them, And so I'm not mad at all.
mhm. That's why I tell my kids all the time, "You just better not be the first one to throw a punch." You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? As long as you're not the first one to throw a punch, you're not getting in trouble from me. And
yeah,
I do. We have a responsibility, like you said, to our family name and our household.
yeah,
And I told my daughter the other day she was going to some middle school football games, right?
yeah.
And I just told her, "Hey, remember who you represent." And she
Mm.
said, "Yes, sir." You know,
Yeah,
and that's incredibly important that your unit is the most important unit. Fuck everybody
yeah,
else. Your
yep,
unit is the most important unit, right? And so when they come home with stuff like that, the first thing I tell myself is, "Hey, what was I doing at that age?" And let's not forget that they're
Mhm.
all
Woo,
kids. They're
woo.
all kids. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying? So when a teacher calls me upset and obviously emotional, I'm like, "Hey, ma'am, sir, I think we both need to remind ourselves that they're kids. They're
yep,
gonna do stupid stuff." You know what I'm
yep,
saying? So let's not get upset or anything. Let's just find a solution, you know?
yes,
And the problem is people take it so personally, like, hey, you're accusing my kid of this, or they're
right,
trying to defend their kids and all that stuff. It's like, damn, they're kids, man. They do
yeah,
stupid stuff on both ends. And so
yeah,
and so I try to de-escalate situations as much as I can and remind myself of that. But yes, 100%, like, we operate differently because we're entrepreneurs and we take extreme accountability, and
yeah,
we do our best to pass that on to our kids, but they're
yeah,
still kids.
yep,
I see these guys pull their kids on stage and they recite the core values and the family motto, and it's like,
they're
man,
kids,
that's a trick. That's all that
right,
is. Like,
yeah,
there's no way. I mean, yes, if you indoctrinate them from the time they're little all the way to 12 and 13, but who wants to do that to a kid? You know what I'm saying? Like, you be a
that's how
kid
I
for a
lived,
while.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good
They
on
just
all
need to
that.
be loved. You know what I'm saying? They need to be
Exactly,
loved. They
yeah,
need to be supported. They need to be able to be creative and become their own person. Right. And then right around then, this is just me. This is my philosophy. I don't
yeah,
know, because I didn't have all that growing up. So I'm just focused on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And if I can
same.
get that right, I think I'm gonna be in good shape, you know?
Yeah,
But now that they're getting to that older age where they're a little bit more moldable, that right and wrong, especially in our world area, has been grayed. It's like I'm doing my best to lead them there, but
yeah.
at the same time, I want it to be their decision that they have these values that I'm trying to impart on them. I want them to say, "Hey, I want to
Mhm.
have integrity." My dad is setting that example, but I want to have integrity because it makes me feel good about who I am, and it's part of my identity now. You know, and so I do my best to get them to make that decision on their own versus saying, "Hey, this is who we are, and you have to be this way because I said so." You know, that's so
Yeah,
tough to maintain. And
yeah.
that's why the preacher's daughter thing is a joke, you know what I'm saying? Because they force it on
Preacher's
them their
granddaughter,
whole life.
that's my wife.
Exactly. Hey, some of them come out great.
Proven.
Some of them come
Yeah.
out crazy, you know? It just depends on how they impart that
Nice
wisdom.
save, nice save.
Nothing in this life is universal, man. Nothing in this
No,
life
it's
is
not.
universal.
You're right. You know, you that core unit is super important to me now. Um, I was so riddled with drugs and alcohol, 5 years ago that that wasn't what was the core thing in my life. The core thing in my life was drugs and alcohol, and it was how to get to that next high, that next drunk, and I think back on it now, and I'm just like, "How in the how did I do that? Like, how did I just push my family, my kids, and everything aside?" And, and it's because we've been trained to do that. Like, we are trained to uh, pick up the beer or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. And yeah, I don't, to each their own. I just can't handle my shit. So,
Mhm,
if you're out there and like you're listening, like, well, I can take a drink and put it down. Well, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking
yeah,
to those people that like grab that drink and they grab the bottle and then they go back to the liquor store and they go get another one and then they, have a wreck on the way home.
yeah,
Um, I couldn't I couldn't control myself, and so my god was drugs and alcohol. Now that that core unit is in that circle, and I'm
mhm,
allowing my God, my creator, to
mhm,
run everything else, right? Now I'm in a better position. Now I can grow. I was like, I didn't I heard somebody say this in the last 2 weeks. I didn't pick up a book in almost a decade, and that's true. I didn't even pick up my Bible. And that's a shocking revelation. How can I wanted to be like so successful and I got to a certain spot and I plateaued. Like I couldn't get past anything. Those systems, those
facts.
processes is more than just in your business, it's in your life. And when you realize that, that's when you break through. That's when you have this like revelation. And I think that if you can figure that out, then these systems and these processes will help you grow into a way in which that you could never even imagine, you know? Um,
I feel like
man,
I feel like because at my height, both of my VP and two of my regionals all were in recovery, you know?
yeah,
And I feel like that's a common theme. If you can come out of that, that's like the ultimate
yeah,
discipline, you know? But unfortunately, everybody thinks that they're not in recovery, which in my mind, everybody on earth is in recovery from something. You have an
yeah,
addiction. Your
oh, yeah,
your your addiction though in society is lower in the hierarchy than hard drugs or alcohol or porn. You know what I'm saying? Some people's addiction is making people feel small. Some people's addiction
mm,
is money. Some people's addiction is TikTok reels. And so everybody has something. Do you have the discipline to pull yourself out of that and not let it be your god anymore, like you said?
yeah,
And once you do that, you know that is the makings of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, what it takes to have six pack. or what it takes
Yeah.
to achieve what you want in your career, or what it
Yes.
takes to have a strong family unit because you're putting down those addictions to serve your family or to serve your business or to serve, your God. And it's incredibly hard to do. For me, it was women. Women were my addiction in my 20s. You know what I'm saying? That's why I got divorced the first time. And then I practiced that discipline to get out of that and get rid of that addiction. And then it turns out that my wife still loved me. And I got incredibly lucky, incredibly blessed by God that she forgave me and we were able to
Mm,
reconcile, you know? And so everybody's got something, but for whatever reason, society ranks them
yeah,
and makes you feel like a shittier person because yours is alcohol, yours is drugs, or yours is porn, or whatever the case is. Everybody's
right.
got something that they're not practicing the discipline to overcome.
Bro, me and you got a lot in common, bro. Like, a lot. Big shout out to our wives, 'cause,
Absolutely.
some badasses. Uh, Me and my wife had a separation period too,
Mhm.
and, come to find out my wife loves me, and, man, I tell you what, um, if it wasn't for God and my wife, like, wouldn't be sitting here, I know I would be dead or in prison, like, those 2 places. That's it.
I couldn't agree more. I put
Having a
myself in some bad situations for my addiction, you know?
Bro, why like, I don't understand what it is, like, there's just something hardwired, like, in, men's brains sometimes, I guess, it's like a self-destructive shit, like, it's
Mm,
just like a shit storm, and I'm speaking on experience on my side, it's just like,
right.
whenever I got things going for me, I self-destructed, and it's like, I would keep that addiction at bay, and 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 then finally, I'm, like, at this spot, and I'm comfortable, and then
Mm,
boom, it was over with, son, like, yeah. Women in, in the whole sphere, what would you call it? Your, organization in your life, okay?
mhm,
I f Is super important, and having that woman that has a strong backbone to stand behind, especially an entrepreneur, right?
mhm,
When a good woman standing behind an entrepreneur really stands next to him, and what it is they push from the back and they rise with you,
mhm,
and it's a beautiful thing to see, when you look back across your life and you see it as a storybook, that you can give, like, this is a testimony to other, young men, business owners that go through the same thing, that they can look and see that there's a difference, that yes, there are people out there just like you that make mistakes, and
mhm,
the difference though is that mindset, changing that mindset, and, like, really figuring out that, you weren't right and your wife was.
absolutely.
Oh, shit.
So, I love what you said, and you weren't afraid to say it about her standing behind you, and I
Yeah,
think people get so hung up on that because of optics or whatever. Like, fuck the optics, like, the reason my
yeah.
wife stands behind me is sometimes she catches me when I fall backwards. I'm going
Mm.
backwards. And okay, well, who catches her? That's not how it works. Women and men are different. I don't catch her. I pull her with me. I pull her with me. And so it's a different dynamic because women and men are 100% different, you know? And so yeah, what you're saying is so true. When you look at the most successful entrepreneurs that are happy, there's two
Yeah,
caveats there. The most
yeah,
successful entrepreneurs that are happy and they have peace,
yeah.
they have an amazing freaking woman behind them. You know what I'm saying? That catches them. Because it happens all the time. I put all this
Look at
pressure on
Cardone.
myself. Yeah.
Look at
Yeah,
Cardone.
exactly. Yeah.
Look at,
100%.
Trump.
Milet, Stewman, like
Yes,
all these guys that are incredibly
yes,
successful. Annie
yes,
Elliott is another one.
yes.
Um, it's been so many times I've came home and I'm like, I'm failing my business. I'm failing my
Mm.
kids. I'm not being a good enough father, and I'm just in this like, woe is me pity party because
Yeah,
the pressure we put on ourselves is insane, compared
yes.
to most other people or the women in our lives, right? And she is just there like lifting me up. Like, I know you got this. I have faith in you. I will follow you wherever you go. You know how many times my wife has told me that in the last 2 years?
Mm,
Because of this reckoning I've had with my values and how I've
mm,
systematically my values have basically systematically picked apart my businesses because I wasn't operating them under values before. And so, this, oh, I have $1 million business, I have 2 million, 3 million, this being my identity as an
right.
entrepreneur. And then all of a sudden my values are like pulling it all apart. And so my identity is getting pulled apart in order to create a better one. Right. And I know that's the long game I'm playing, but she's there making sure that I don't forget who the fuck I am every
Yes.
time I come home like that.
I'm glad you
And
said that.
and I'm fucked if I don't have that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm glad that you said that because um, I I I look at my wife and I know that I'm there for her, but it's a different I'm there for her in a different way. It's just the way they were made.
Mhm.
Um, they were they're built different, and it sounds like your wife and my wife have a lot of the same qualities, and a lot of high performers that have good women in their life, good wives, they are all very alike, and they all are very, very strong individuals, and man, I'm glad that you said that. It's so important that, people recognize that fact, and it's not broadcasted much, you know? Um, I'm I'm at awe sometimes at, like, the shit like, it's hard for me to not worry, and for my wife to just be like, "It'll be okay.
It's
God's got
crazy,
us."
isn't it?
Bro, it's like
Like, how do you have so much faith in me? You've seen me fail
and
so
it
many times.
almost
I failed
pisses
you.
me
Like,
off. It almost pisses me off because she's so calm, and I'm like, "How the fuck are you so calm?" And it's just like, "No, we'll be fine. We we got this. We got this." And it's not a, "You got this." It's a, "We got this."
mhm,
And when you get past that, it that you were talking about that identity, right? And when you can, like, get past that, which is really hard, but
mhm.
when you can, you're gonna transform into something completely different, you know? For the first time in a decade, my wife is on all accounts. Her name is on everything. She's the CEO of our new company. Um, Same kinda thing going on in my life, that identity change,
Yeah,
and it had to happen, to grow. It just I feel like if that didn't happen and it's a continual thing, it's not fucking just like, "Oh, shit," just, "Oh, he just," like, they decided to, like, have a difference in their life. It doesn't
yeah.
happen like that. Action is where it happens.
Mhm,
Um, and that's where we struggle, and that's where they're there, to be there and to make sure that you're taken care of. Uh, man, I, would like, you know, fuck
That
that,
was
like, we
like
didn't even
45
talk
minutes ago.
yeah, yeah, like, we didn't even really talk about, but, like, one of those points, uh, and I'm glad, like, we had this today's podcast was more than what I wanted it to be, like, it was in the heart, and, today, if you were watching and you didn't get touched in some sort of way, uh, grab a chisel and,
Start
hit
working
that
on
heart
that.
real quick 'cause you got some work to do. Oh my god, this was awesome, Doug. Um, I appreciate you coming on. and helping us, understand more about you, and
Mhm.
really the detail and how you handle your life, and um the mindset is so important. I really do appreciate you coming on and helping us today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me, man. It was a great conversation. You're a fantastic host, and you let the conversation go. I think that's important. Like we did. We covered some cool shit in the beginning, systems,
Yeah,
processes, sales programs. I love talking about that stuff. It lights me up.
yeah,
But I couldn't agree more. It was this hybrid show where we could connect with everybody that's listening that isn't concerned about their sales team, or, isn't concerned about their business right now. They're concerned about their marriage. They're concerned about their kids. And so when you can do those two things on the podcast, you got something special, and you got something special here, brother.
man, I appreciate you, brother. I really do. uh well, today and every day, my music is not working, but that's okay. Here we go. We're sponsored by Roofing Supply Incorporated here in the Houston marketplace, where you can get your shingles, your tile, your slate, your metal, anything that you need. I got you. Give me a call. Telephone number 210-919-8987. We are also sponsored by West Group Public Adjusters, where you can get an amazing hand tailored claims experience. You can get a hold of them directly through me. Telephone number is 210-919-8987. We are also sponsored by Rep Card, where you can get an awesome digital business card. It's like a CRM. Understand whenever someone is looking at your profile. It's really awesome. Guys, reach out if you're looking for an awesome digital business card. I got you taken care of. Again, Doug, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it. And you guys continue listening